Welcome to Sips with Scrubs, a nurse podcast where we talk about all things nursing related, the good, the bad, and the ugly. I am your host, Nurse Lainey. Welcome to all of my new people, and for those who are returning, welcome back. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's episode. Today we're going to be doing another story time, except for this one's a little bit different because now it's going to be about a patient. But before we get into all of that, today I am sipping on a little some. I got a cupcake lighthearted here. It's a rosé. It's like a healthy alternative for wine, 80 calories, and I think it's 8% alcohol. I've drunk this before on a previous episode, so I'm not going to put all the info on the screen. But that's basically like a little quick rundown of that. So I will be sipping on that throughout today's episode. I'm actually going to try it now because I can't remember if it tastes like, what did it taste like? And then I've had it for a while in my refrigerator. And then sometimes wines taste different after you've opened them. So let me see what it tastes like after it's been opened. All right, still hitting. It's not like it's fresh and crisp, but it'll get the job done. So next we're going to get into what would Lainey do. So today on what would Lainey do, this post starts off, tomorrow is my last day with my preceptor on my new job. She tries to bully me, but I bite my tongue and just listen to her inaccurate criticism of my skills, and her feedback is embarrassing because she's loud and picks a time where her work friends are around. I hope tomorrow is better. I refuse to let a young white know-it-all with horrible bedside manner break me. I don't know anyone there, so I feel alone. I'm transitioning from a step-down off-site unit back to the floor. I feel alone and I'm ready to quit. But thank God my unit manager was able to switch me to nights faster than planned. I want to give feedback on her as a preceptor, but honestly not trying to give a bad impression to the rest of the team. Your thoughts? So I was trying to think because obviously different people would approach the situation differently, but this is called What Would Lainey Do? So honestly, it depends on what kind of mood I'm in, because if sometimes I have times where I feel confrontational, and then there's other times where I feel like I'm not going to speak on something unless I know something will be done about it. So since she's new on the unit, she doesn't really know the unit dynamics and how the manager operates. So for me personally, I have dealt with this on my different jobs where I've had managers and charge nurses who will actually do something about what you would say, or at least take it into consideration. And you can see the after effects of that. And then I've had it where I felt like my manager was not listening or taking what I had to say into account. And if she did, it didn't change any behavior of the staff. So she's new, so she might not be able to determine like what kind of manager she has. So depending on what type of manager I have would depend on what I do. So if I had the one who I feel like would listen to me and things of that nature, I would go ahead and I would say like, hey, this was my experience with this preceptor. I just wanted to make you aware of it. And, I don't want anybody else to go through that, because I felt really disheartened at times. And I felt like I didn't want to work here anymore because of that. I feel like that's important to know as a manager. And like I said, different managers are different with their approach. And essentially, I feel like you should want what's best for a unit. So the person should be reprimanded and have a talking to. But like I said, every manager is not the same. So as I said already, if it's one that I know would listen or at least hear me out, I'd go ahead and say it, because that does impact the work environment, and you don't want a person on your staff that's going to hinder people from wanting to work with the team, because people will quit jobs for that. That's partially the reason why I left my previous position, was because of instances such as that. People get tired of not being heard and stuff not being done about it, and then that's just putting it plainly. Now, if I did have a manager who didn't listen to me, and I know it wouldn't matter what I said, it'd basically be a waste of breath, I honestly wouldn't even say anything in regards to that. I'll just go about my day. And since she's on night, she don't have to really encounter her anymore unless she's giving her a report. So that's basically how I would handle it. You guys go ahead and let me know down in the comments, what do you think about this situation, for my people on YouTube and for my people who are listening on my podcast. If you haven't already, make sure you are following me on Instagram at Sips with Scrubs, and I want to hear your thoughts as well. So you guys can comment me what you feel about the situation, and if not, you could just DM me if you don't want it public. So I do want to tell you guys something really quickly before we proceed with this episode. I'm not really sure how this audio is sounding, but my AC has broken, so that's why you can see the leaves are moving like a lot. For those people who are on YouTube and watching this, it is a lot going on back there, but that's because I got the fan on and I got like another fan in here, so hopefully the audio isn't like horrible, but I'll try to do what I can with what it turns out to be. I'll listen to it and whatnot and try to make adjustments so it's minimized. But if you guys do hear some of that in the background, that's just what's going on. Fun times. And I live in Houston, for those who don't know. So y'all know this heat is cray. But in a couple of days it'll be fixed, but adulting, So as I said before, today we are going to be talking about a patient's story. So this patient experience is about a time I had a patient leave AMA. I've had several patients leave AMA. I've been a nurse for like almost 4 years at this point. So I'm not going to say it's all the time. Like every time I go to work, somebody's leaving AMA, but it's definitely not like uncommon. And honestly, I kind of encourage it, because you have some patients who don't want to participate in their care. Like they don't want you to do anything for them. And at that point, I'm kind of like, well, what are your intention of being hospitalized? What do you expect to get out of this visit? Sometimes that's what I ask them, because I just want to know, like, how can I take care of you if you're not willing to be taken care of? So I kind of just ask them like straight up like that, like, so what you trying to do? Because if you want me to come in my room, I won't. Trust me, I'll put in a little patient note real quick. Patient said, do not do this, da-da-da-da-da, notified, charge RN, we'll continue to monitor. Real quick. That's one less patient I got to worry about. So I just need to know what you're trying to do. So occasionally you'll get the one who want to go AMA, and it's just going to like, no problem. Let me just print out the paperwork. You sign at the dotted line and you out of here. I'll tell your doctor what's going on. Y'all follow up outpatient. Bye. But this one was a little bit different because this patient was actually sick. So I had like a lot of anxiety regarding it. And I'm going to take another sip of my wine for those who are listening. Y'all hear a little gap. That's what I'm doing. But we're about to get into this. I also forgot to tell you guys, if you guys have any recommendations for like wines or cocktails, y'all can let me know in the comments on YouTube, or you can comment on Instagram and let me know what you would recommend. I'll put up posts periodically asking for recommendations, and same thing with topics for these podcast episodes. You guys also can like recommend what y'all would like me to talk about, and if you like me to have a guest or not, any of the things. I'm here for y'all and me. You feel me? So definitely let me know. I will respond back to the best of my ability. I will preface it with saying that I bulk record, so a lot of these episodes are recorded far in advance. So eventually, I will get to your topic, and if I need to, I'll probably try to move my schedule around for what I have set to release in order to make it a little bit more timely if it's something that needs to be timely. But just letting you guys know, I'm not just here for me. I like doing this, but I'm here for y'all too. And I'm going to get into the story time. So I'm going to start at the beginning of the day. I'm pretty sure. I know I was IMU nurse this day on the unit I used to previously work on. It was a COVID unit, and half of them were like COVID med surg, and it was like a select few who were COVID IMU. So I'm the COVID IMU nurse for that shift. So I had 3 patients, and honestly speaking, it's IMU because their oxygen demand was high. So I feel like the nurse to patient ratio is accurate. I feel like all IMUs should be 3 to 1 because almost always you're going to have at least one person who's going to ICU. And at the same time, you have to accompany your patient wherever they go in IMU because they're sickly. You know what I'm saying? So if they got a CT exam or any MRI, anything like that, you got to go downstairs. So that means you're going to be off the unit for however long. And then, like I said, there's always one that's kind of teetering towards ICU. So they need like a lot of care. So 3 to 1 is perfect to me for IMU. I know some facilities do 4 to 1, but three is where it's at. So I was 3 to 1 this day. I don't even remember my other patients from this particular shift because they must have not have been like as needy or, anything that stands out. And I will go on to say, before we really get into this, for those who are like concerned about HIPAA and things like that, I'm not disclosing any patient information. That's names, date of birth, any identifiable factors, which would be race, where I'm working at, where they live at, or their medical record number, or any of the things. So I can talk about situations, but just so those people know, I will disclose that each time I do one of these little story times, just to cover the bases. But yeah, so I don't remember the other patients, so that must have been good for me. So this particular patient, you can kind of tell like what kind of patient you're going to get, especially as a more experienced nurse when you walk into the room with what kind of attitude they're giving you. And honestly, based off of their attitude determines on what kind of nurse they're going to get for that day. I'm not going to say I change who I am for the people, but each people need different things out of you. It's kind of like teaching. So some patients need hands-off approach, Some of them, they need you to talk more and, be a little bit more present in the room. Some of them, don't require all of that. So with this particular patient, I could kind of tell, like, he didn't too much really want to be bothered. He wants to be independent, so, okay, let him do things for himself. And I kind of am a nurse like that in general. I try to let my patients do what they can for themselves because eventually you're not going to be here and eventually like nobody's going to be doing these things for you. So you need to be capable of doing that unless you physically cannot. So he seemed like that type of patient that didn't really want to be bothered. So, at the beginning of every shift, I'm like, hey, I'm Nurse Slaney. I'll be a nurse for this shift. I'll be here until, tonight, 7 o'clock. I'll be running on you every hour. I'll ask you if you need anything for pen, anything like that. But if I'm not in the room, you can go ahead and hit the call light and I'll come back by and give you what you need. So that's just kind of the rundown I do every time when I'm like first introducing myself to the patient. And, the day was okay. He was a little snarky at first, but it's just like whatever. Like I've told y'all in previous episodes, I'm not really easily offended. So when people are like that with me, I'm just like whatever. I know it's not personal. A lot of these times people got other stuff going on outside, like on top of them being in the hospital. They trying to figure out how they gonna pay for this, pay for that. It's just like whatever. I don't, you're not gonna disrespect me, but those little snippy, short answers, you're not really trying to engage in conversations, like that doesn't hurt my feelings. But you're not gonna disrespect me. If you do, like I'm gonna give you a talking to, like you a child. Respectfully though. But you're not gonna disrespect me. So, we'll get into that. I have a patient note that I'm going to put on the screen for my people on YouTube, and I'm going to read it, and then we're just going to talk about this together. So one of the time I'm rounding on this patient, I heard before that this guy, maybe like a day ago, went into the restroom by himself, and mind y'all, I'm COVID IMU, so they're hooked up to the telemetry bedside monitor, so we can monitor their oxygenation, and he's on a heated high flow, 60 liters, 90%, and has a non-rebreather as needed for exertion. So for those who are familiar with oxygen delivery devices, y'all know that that's like the highest amount of oxygen you can get before you either are on continuous BiPAP, which you can't stay on for too long because it'll do more harm than good, or you're about to be intubated. Those are like the next steps. And BiPAP, like I said, is just a bridge. Like the pulmonologists always told us that they don't encourage people to stay on that for long term. I know people use it at night sometimes, so they have periods when they're on it at night, and then they come off of it. But they don't want people on it like a lot because they said it increases the chances of pneumothorax. Is that not pneumo? Is that pneumothorax? It is pneumothorax, I think. But that's what they told us. So at my facility, they start using it for like a temporary fix until the person can decide like what they want to do about, like, do you want to be intubated or you want to be DNR? That was kind of like the only options. So he was on heated high flow, 60 liters, 90%, and was using non-breather for exertion. So they told me during report that the previous day, he had went to the restroom without telemetry and oxygen because he wanted to use the restroom, like the actual toilet. He didn't want to use the bedside commode. He didn't want to do none of the things. He says he wants to use that because he's an adult and he can do these things for himself. So I was just like, okay. I didn't think it was going to happen during my shift. But lo and behold, on one of my rounds, I found that patient in the restroom. I saw him off of telemetry, and I was just like, I knew it. That's what it was. I went in his room. This man is on, like, coming out the restroom. I caught him in the act. And I was just like, what are you doing? I have not really been too pissed at a patient before, but I was livid. I'm not going to even lie. I was livid, and I went off on him. Like, I spazzed on him because he also was, like, a very heavy-set patient. He was, like, pushing 400 pounds. And for those on YouTube, y'all see me. And then for those who are listening, I'm only 5 feet. I got a little bit of weight on me, but that don't mean I can't lift no 400-pound man. You know what I'm saying? That's dead weight. So I kind of was, like, frazzled because I was, like, thinking, like, worst case scenario, like, what could I have done for you if you, like, coded in the restroom? Like, I could have gotten a Hoyer lift, and who knows how long that would take. Last time I had to get a Hoyer lift for a patient, it wasn't charged, and they had to go get another one. So the patient was on the ground for a minute. Okay, because I'm trying to say I'm going to code you on the bathroom floor, so I'm talking about the Hoyer lift because I'm like, if I got to get you back in the bed to code you, that would have taken some time. Or if I would have coded you on the bathroom floor, okay. I code you on the bathroom floor. I'm pulling the emergency red string thing to get other people to come into me. But, like, how effective could a code be running in the restroom? You know what I'm saying? Then, somebody got to go get the crash cart. That stuff take time. That crash cart is not going to fit in the restroom. So how we going? We going to drag him to connect the pads? Like, this is what I'm thinking because I don't know about y'all, but I think worst case scenario about anything. So I'm somewhat prepared if something was to pop off because I feel like something always pops off during one of your shifts. So I'm thinking like, okay, if that did happen, what would I have done? Because that could happen. It might not have happened today, but it could have happened. And what am I going to do about it? I don't got time to think about it in the moment. I already need to have thought about it, and I just need to act. So I spazzed on him because I was just like, what were you thinking? Like, it's so funny because these patients, they don't take anything into consideration. They're like kids. All you thought about is that you wanted to go to the restroom, but you didn't think about you could have passed out in the restroom and I wouldn't have known about it. You didn't think that you could have died in the restroom. You didn't think about any of these things. You didn't think that if I would have found you, I would not have been able to really help you or assist you because you are really heavy. You don't think about any of those things. And that's what frustrates me sometimes about patients is because sometimes I got to get to them like, don't think about you. Think about me for 2 seconds. If you would have failed, what would I have done? Like, it's very inconsiderate. You know what I'm saying? So I spazzed on him and I told him all those things. And he was really frustrated. But I'm like, I don't care. I need you to hear me. So we kind of went back and forth because I was like, you cannot do this again. Like, you cannot. Because I was like, if you die, what am I going to do? And then, like, later I kind of had to apologize to him because y'all see how, like, aggressive I'm talking now, if y'all feel like I'm aggressive anyway. I was, like, 10 times worse in that moment. Like, I didn't say anything disrespectful, but my voice was raised. And I was telling him, like, I just feel like this because I was like, I've seen so many bad things happen during this pandemic, and I don't want that for you. And I told him, like, you really worried me, you know? So I just let him know, and after that, it was kind of cool. But I was just like, please do not do that again. And I meant it like that. So I'm going to read this patient note. So it says, found patient without telemetry monitoring and oxygen in the restroom having a bowel movement. And that's the other thing. With having a bowel movement, a lot of these times patients pass out when they're having it because of like the vagal maneuver. So I've seen a couple of times where patients will pass out on the bedside commode or, something like that while trying to have a bowel movement. So I was just like, oh, Lord. Patient did not call previously. Had to put that in there, Educated patient on the risk of ambulating without oxygen. Educated patient about using bedside commode instead of going to the restroom. Patient refusing, stating, I'm getting better. There's nothing wrong with me. That was like the other thing. He kept trying to say, like, no, I feel fine. And I'm like, yeah, you might feel fine, which I don't know why you feel fine. But you may feel fine, but what's going on with you physically is not okay. And I had to, like, let him know, like, no, like, you want to step out the ICU. Like, honest to God. And so he says, so I educated the patient on severity of condition. And I put, patient is currently on heated high flow, 60 liters, 90% using the non-rebreather upon exertion. Patient adamantly refused to listen. And honestly, I've talked about this with him like several times during that shift. And he's just like, I'm fine. There's something wrong with me. Okay, whatever. Hard-headed patients, unfortunately, with people like that, you just got to let them learn the hard way. And I'm just like, all right, well, if you want to pass out on the floor and die, that's on you. I've told you all I could. And honestly, it sounds bad, but that's really how you have to address it, because that's all you can do is talk to the patient about it, educate them, let the charge nurse know, let their doctors know, like, this is what I'm going through, just in case if anything does happen, you did take those precautions and those measures to prevent something from occurring. But you can't, they're adults. He's alert and oriented times 4, which means he's aware of what's going on. I can't make you physically do anything. So, instructed patient if he insists on ambulating to the restroom to call for assistance. So that was the other thing I did. I'm like, okay, well, at least if you're going to go to the restroom, can you please call me so I can be nearby if something was to happen with you? That's what I hate about being a nurse sometimes. I'm just like, I got to pick up y'all do whatever y'all want to do, and I'm here to pick up the fallen pieces. And if I don't pick up the fallen pieces, like, there goes my license, there goes my conscience. Like, I'm gonna feel bad about what happened to you, because I knew it could have been preventable. Like, it just sucks sometimes being a nurse, because I'm like, you're gonna do what you want to do anyway, and all I could do is try to keep you from dying. It's just ridiculous. And then I had to put a patient refused bed/chair alarm, just a handful, y'all. And then I also put in here on the patient note, notified MD, ICU, NP, and charge RN will continue to monitor. So that day was super stressful for me, because I was just on edge, because I'm like, am I going to have to code this patient today? And I didn't even get to the point yet about him wanting to leave AMA. So after I caught him doing all this, he's like, I feel fine, I want to go, whatever. And I'm telling the doctor, like, the patient wants to leave AMA, and the doctor's like, did you tell him that if he tries to leave, he's going to die? And I was like, yes. Honest, like, you have to be blunt sometimes as a nurse and a doctor. Like, I've had a doctor have to tell a patient before, like, you're a heart attack away, like, you're one hamburger away from having a heart attack. Sometimes that's the only way people can get it. So when I was saying in the beginning of the episode, when I was like, different patients require different sides of you, that's what I mean. Some patients do not understand the severity of what's going on unless you're saying, you will die. If you do this, you're going to die, And if you've been a nurse long enough, you've experienced that. So it's just like, you have to see what you're dealing with that day. And they might think it's rude, but I mean, you're not hearing what I'm telling you. So he's like, he wants to leave AMA, and I had to tell him, like, if you do, you will die. Then I'm thinking, like, if you manage to even get in your car, you're going to die on the road and probably cause an accident. I was just very anxious that day because of all of the what ifs. If you don't do this, what am I doing? What am I going to do? Am I responsible? Whatever. And I'm like, please don't let this man code in front of me, because then I'm going to have to be the one to do it. So I'm thinking, like, I didn't even think he was going to, ain't no way in hell he was going to make it to the elevator to even get out the hospital. So I'm like, either he's going to code in the hallway or he's going to code in the elevator. So I'm just like, I don't know. But I talked to the doctor a lot of times. The doctor called him. He was still pissed. They called a family member, and the family member talked to him, and they kind of got through to him. And, like, the pulmonologist, she was like, send him to ICU. So he didn't want to go to ICU, of course. He wanted to stay there because ain't nothing wrong with him, right? So why do I need to go to ICU? And a lot of people are scared to go to ICU because they think if they go to ICU, they're going to die, especially with COVID patients. So a lot of times I was dealing with ICU level patients on an IMU unit because they did not want to go to ICU. And also because if you go to ICU, you're most likely going to get intubated. So if you didn't consent to being intubated, they're kind of like, well, they're just going to stay with you guys. And it's just like, well, all right, you know? So it's just like, okay, nothing to deal with. So that was my whole day with that patient. It was just crazy. I ended up getting him to ICU by the end of the shift, and it was a handful. So y'all can imagine how that was for like my shift. That was my shift, and that's just one patient. So you could kind of imagine like what a day in a life looked like when I have 2 other people to attend to. I got other doctors, I got other family members and things of that nature. So it's just wild out here for a nurse. It's really wild. So that's the end of the story time. Y'all definitely let me know what y'all think about that. Have y'all had a patient that's similar or what? And before we close today's episode, we always like to do scrub and sip. This is a segment on the episode where we're going to release some negative energy in regards to something going on in the healthcare industry, something, you know, with your current work week or whatever. So if y'all got something, y'all comment that down below. What are you scrubbing for this week and what are we sipping to? So this is coming out, as I said, I previously pre-recorded these episodes, so this is coming out way later. I'm scrubbing from my mind the fact that they're overturning Roe v. Wade. I'm like, baby, what? So it's the state's decision to determine about the abortion stuff. And y'all know I live in ghetto Texas, and it's already a hot mess out here. I'm so glad that, before I did say I was glad that I was married, but I mean, like, just because you're married don't mean you're not going to want to end up having an abortion. You know what I'm saying? Or, you know, what if I got raped or something and I don't want that baby because of obvious reasons? Like, that's no longer an option. So it's just wild out here, the things that we have to endure. And it's just like, who are you to say that? Like, you might not have to believe in what's going on, but at least give other people who don't the option to express themselves the way they want to. That's how I feel about it. I might not be having the abortion, but I would like the choice for people who are in those type of circumstances to at least be able to consider if they want to have it or not. So it's just crazy out here that you could just make laws for whatever the heck you got going on. You know what I'm saying? And we got to listen. So that's wild. So I'm scrubbing that because I'm just like, this is the world we live in, y'all. Like, it's 2022. We got all these, you know, LGBTQ plus rights, you know, minorities are getting more just due. I feel like in society, things are more publicized now because we have social media and acts. But I mean, like, hate crimes and stuff, that's not new. But I feel like we're progressing to a point where we could talk about these sort of things and we can, like, call out accusers and, you know, stuff like that. And there's actually things being done to reprimand those type of people. So it's just like we get this far with all that stuff, and then now we got set back just a little bit. So I'm just like, okay. So I'm scrubbing that, and then I'm sipping to, let's see, what do I have to sip to? I'm trying to think of my last couple of shifts. Okay. This wasn't this last week, but previous week, I got out of work at a decent hour. And I'm sipping to that because I've been having a hard time, especially being a pool nurse, with finding who's the nurse, who's taking these patients, and like all this sorts of stuff will report. And honestly, 7:30 is not you know, bad time to get off work for some, but lately at my previous job, I was getting off early, like 7:08, 7:15, because it was like, okay, I got your patient. But as a folk pool nurse, I'm like, I don't know who has my patient today. And I'm like looking at the names, I'm looking at badges like, okay, do you have my patient? Like, and then most of the time, like, the nurses are not coming back or whatever. So I'm sipping to giving all of my patients to this one nurse, and we moved through them really quickly, and I got out of work at a decent time. So cheers to that. Y'all let me know what y'all sipping to this week, and I will see you guys in my next episode. Bye.